Good evening. Thank you for tuning in to our Purposefully Catholic Family Sunday intro video. First of all, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, for taking the time to learn a little bit more about our program. I also want to thank you for your patience as we had to make a pretty quick switch from our in-person meeting to this online format due to the increased COVID cases in Kootenai County. So thank you for that. Tonight we're going to be going over a slideshow so we can talk a little bit more about how the family component fits into our Purposefully Catholic program that I'm sure you've heard all about. So the Purposefully Catholic is the backbone of all of our religious education programs that happen through St. Pius. We'll talk a little bit more about the reasons why we moved to that and how our family Sundays fit into that overarching structure. So let's go ahead and get started. Our Family of Faith Sundays. So there is a document from the Vatican from several years ago. It's called Familiaris consortio. It states the example of witness of parents leaves an impression that the future events of their children's lives will not be able to efface. So what our history has taught us, what we have observed happening in the church, is that kids aren't staying Catholic as they grow up. If you think back to 150 years ago, 200 years ago, faith was taught in the home. And then faith was carried on to their children and to their children. For whatever reason, it's moved to this classroom model. And we've seen a change in faith. So looking at this document, we see that the parents' witness of the faith leaves an impression on children that can never be overshadowed or gotten rid of. So that's one of the bases of our programming. I'm going to show a video here. It's from a Catholic speaker named Ken Yazinski, and we're going to talk about what being a Catholic parent means and how us at St. Pius can help change the world through our children.
What should be the goal of parents? I once heard a mom say that they desired their child to be a good, productive member of society, and if their child became this, they had done their job. As a Catholic parent, this is not my number one priority. My number one priority is to get my children to heaven, period. What good is it to raise ultra-high performance children who are plugged into every conceivable extracurricular activity so they don't miss out, but they lose their eternal soul? Talk about missing out. Heaven should be the number one priority for our children because this is God's priority for them as well. The duty of every parent is to raise children in the ways of God. And we cannot raise children simply to contribute to society. We cannot encourage children to add to what Pope John Paul II called a culture of death. We are to raise world changers whose focus is their own holiness and the holiness of others, who develop their gifts and talents not to help themselves, but to help build the kingdom of God. It's not good intentions that produce world changers. It's not a morality defined by the majority that produce kingdom builders. John Paul II said, holy people, and holy people alone can renew humanity. To hear that? Holy people. Catholic parents are to raise saints. Now, the best place to start is to ask the question, what is coming out of my mouth and how am I treating my spouse? Is it a reflection of Christ? If we want children to be kind, we must show kindness. If we want them patient, we must show restraint. If we want them prayerful, they must see us praying. If we want them to know Jesus, we must tell them of our encounter with him and then teach them his ways. What kind of child do you want? One that conforms to the world or to Christ? One that goes with the flow or goes with God? Nature tells us dead fish always float downstream. Growing in Christ always is an uphill battle. A parent decides what the primary influence is going to be in their child's life. If they sit back passively, they've decided that the world and their friends are going to be the primary influence. If they take an active role, they've decided it will be them. There's going to be a fight either way. If you're a parent, or you're going to be one soon, God is calling you to raise world changers.
All right, so those are some pretty powerful words. Also, very daunting prospect of being the primary educator of your children in faith. So just know from the beginning that with Purposefully Catholic, while we are trying to support, equip, empower parents to be teaching the faith in the home, we're not expecting you guys to be theologians, because I'm certainly not one. My background is not in the faith or theology. It's in, secular education and that sort of thing. So we're not expecting you to know it all or to teach your children every word out of the catechism, but to really encourage you to own your own faith so that you can spread that to your children as well. All right, so the goals of Purposefully Catholic Initiative are to evangelize, to really kind of catch your heart, to encourage you as parents, and to equip you as parents to be able to bring the faith into your home. So our Tuesday nights, we have Tuesday night PC at Home, which are live streamed. You can find that on our parish website or by subscribing to our St. Pius Facebook page or YouTube channel. Those are live streamed every night, Tuesday night, and can also be accessed after the fact. They'll be recorded. But to evangelize and to encourage you. So I have my PC notebook here, or I'll make my screen bigger for you. And so as Father talks, I'm jotting notes and reflections, and I go over this later as a prayer, and suddenly I have all the information that I need to engage with my children regarding this. There are discussion guides, there's an activity book that go along with it so that you as a parent are now equipped to share this with your child. Not only as information, but how it touched you, how Jesus spoke to you. So really to get at the heart of parents and then get at the heart of children through their parents. Sorry, I'm not the most technologically savvy person. I have a message from Father Flores and Father John about what PC is and what the goals are and what the expectations are for parents versus children.
Before we continue, I do want to reiterate something about the structure for PC. And I know that there's so many details, so it's easy to get lost in what all this means. But our audience is everybody, right? The whole parish, any age. When it comes to children, we don't expect a child to sit and listen to this program for an hour because we're not that exciting, right? To be able to capture their attention for that long. But what we're hoping that parents can do is along with the guidebook that you're going to have, and some of you already do have, that you take some of what we have and what's in the guidebook and distill it down to your child, because nobody knows how to communicate to your child like you do, right? Nobody can do it as effective as the mom and dad can. And so that's the goal. Of course, it's wonderful if kids are able to watch this, to listen to parts of this. Kids surprise us by how smart they are, right? Oftentimes we think they can't capture these deep realities, but so often they're very good at it. So the audience is everybody. PC is for everyone. The conversation here specifically though is geared for adults, right? So keep that in mind. And then parents, please share with your children. And even if, like I said, if they're listening, that'd be wonderful if your kids are listening along.
All right, so that's a little bit of a message from Father about what PC at home is. It is definitely geared towards parents, not necessarily intended for children. I know one thing that we have our kids do is we do get out the activity book, the children's activity book, and there's some coloring pages in it or some crosswords or whatever, and we just allow our kids to color, and they might do some puzzles or some crafts at the table, so they're kind of in the vicinity but not watching it. Another option would be to, after your kids go to bed, you can always go back and find the recording. But like I said, the backbone of our programming is getting this information into the parents' hands so that they can then disseminate that information to their children. All right, so on to our next slide. So what is for children? If PC at home and PC at church is primarily for adults, although children are welcome, then what is geared towards children? So like I mentioned before, the activity book is for children. Now at this point, we've distributed this to elementary age students. If you have a high school or a middle school age child and they would also like one of these, we do have extra. They're welcome to, you're welcome to pick one up, and they can participate as well. I know my high schoolers and middle schooler enjoy that. With that came a sheet called PC Quick Look, and that kind of provides your reading schedule and your framework so that you know what we'll be touching on at each PC at home or PC at church. And then in addition to that, we have our PC Family Sunday, which is the fourth Sunday of the month. And that's when we'll provide kind of more age-appropriate support material. Kids will be able to break out into age-appropriate groups, and we'll have a group for parents as well. So PC at home and PC at church are geared towards adults, and PC Family Sundays, the fourth Sunday of the month, is geared towards whole families. So for our pre-K and kinder groups, when we do breakout sessions for our Family Sundays, they'll be doing a program called Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. This is an awesome program that we would love to grow at our church, but for right now we have it just for pre-K and kinder. It's a Montessori-based approach to learning the Catholic faith. So it's a very hands-on, interactive, lots of visual, tactile, works is what they call them. And that, again, is held during the PC Family Sundays. Our Sacramental Prep will be our first and our second graders. I want to just point out that this is a 2-year preparation program. So if your child has never been in a religious education preparation program before in the past, go ahead and talk to me, and even if they're in second grade, we'll find a place for them in kind of that year 1, so they do get that full exposure. This is going to be a little different. I'm very excited about this. First and second grade families are going to be completing what's called a portfolio. Let me make my screen bigger for you. So it's a binder, pretty plain. But then when you open it up, there are different materials in it. So one material we're going to be working on is praying a decade of the Rosary at home as a family for all of our kids in Sacramental Prep. There's this guide that comes with it, and it focuses on a virtue a week. So at home, with the support of a material, you're going to be learning about prayer, learning about Christ's life through the Rosary, learning about his mother, Mary, and then learning about virtues. So very accessible, a decade a week, 5 minutes a week. So again, we're not expecting parents to be theologians in order to bring the faith into their home, but to have you let us support you in bringing the faith into the home. Second graders, not first graders, but second graders will be going through a First Communion catechism. This is the nuts and bolts of how to receive First Holy Communion and First Reconciliation. So again, there's a reading guide in the portfolio. We're not just going to throw you to the wolves and make you figure it all out on your own. There's a reading guide very accessible, a few pages a week to complete. Within the portfolio, there's 5 tabs. There's Rosary, Works of Mercy, Saints and Liturgical Year, Sacraments, and Bible and Catechism Study. This is not full yet. We have a few things in here right now. One thing that I've wanted to add and go over if we met in person was a little bit of a look at the saints and your saint, your patron saint, and how they've affected your life. And throughout the year, we'll provide different materials like that and just say, this is an idea, or please include this in your portfolio. Another thing you can include in your portfolio is maybe something that you did out of the activity book that especially touched your family. So while there will be things that I might ask you to include in the portfolio, there might be things that you want to include in the portfolio just on your own. So more of a guideline than strict boundaries, although there are some things that we will need to have in here just to meet diocesan requirements. But you are, have the license to have a little bit of fun with this too. So that will be our Sacramental Prep. 1st and 2nd grade, and that'll happen as a breakout session during our PC Family Sundays, which again happen on the 4th Sunday of the year. I'm sorry, the 4th Sunday of the month. Now, 3rd through 5th grade boys and girls, this is going to be a little bit different than what we've traditionally known as our classroom model. It's going to run a little bit more like a youth group, where 3rd through 5th grade boys will break off into one room. 3rd through 5th grade girls will break into another room. Mixed age groups. I've had a lot of success with this in the past, where you have some older kids able to mentor younger kids looking up to those older kids, separated out by gender, and really focusing on internalizing their faith journey and growing in their faith with their peers, and really affecting the change in the Catholic culture, even as 3rd through 5th graders. So we have a book. It's called Made for Greatness, and this is a growth mindset journal. And so there are 7 virtues that are covered in here. Again, we're focusing on virtues, just like the 1st and 2nd graders will be. And there is a reading guide right inside the front cover. So again, we're not throwing anybody out to the wolves. We're looking at maybe covering 1 to 3 pages a week. This is meant to be a little bit more of a personal journey for 3rd through 5th graders, but of course, they're still young, they're still elementary kids. So this is a really nice tool for them to have a little bit of independence and freedom in their reading and their prayer, but to also have parent support. So there's guidance in it. Families can decide how this works best for them, whether parents read different excerpts to their kids, or they have kids read it independently and just have some conversation with them afterwards. But a really nice, authentic way to bring faith into the home and into the lives of your 3rd through 5th grade children. Throughout the year, I'll also add, this is just glued in, different things that might catch the attention of 3rd through 5th grade boys and girls. Maybe they might be different for boys than it would be for girls, but things that they can just doodle on, or, keep them busy or occupied if they are at PC at home or PC at church with you. So this is the 3rd through 5th grade resource. All right. So like I've stated a few times, the Family of Faith Parent Guide and the Family of Faith Activity Book are going to be our backbone. This is kind of the glue that holds it all together. It's the topics that will be discussed at PC at Church and PC at Home. It'll be the topics that we discuss at our PC Family Sunday gatherings as parents. And so I showed you before, and I'm going to show you once again, when I'm watching Father, despite the fact that I'm, somewhat involved in his team, I'm writing notes and reflections. This has catechism references and Bible references, so that when I go to work with my kids, I don't know if you can see that very well, I have not only what's written, but inspiration from Father, or maybe a reflection from reading a journal. Reading a Bible scripture passage, or a passage from the catechism. So I've taken the information and I've really kind of made it my own. I've internalized it. I've reflected on it. And now when I share it with my kids, it's not just, a piece of information, but I'm really, building relationship with them and sharing my faith with them. So this is a kind of a nice, robust tool that our parish has found, and we're really excited to be promoting this to the entire parish, and primarily to parents as a guide to help support faith in the home. Just kind of one thing, when you pick up the books, I just want to assure you, you do not need to do every activity in the book. I realize families are very busy. The way that this curriculum is structured is that you have you do maybe 2 to 4 activities a month, and a lot of them are very simple, just discussions or reading from the Bible and maybe going through some discussion questions. There are some things like crosswords and coloring pages, if your child is particularly drawn to that. Referencing the catechism, working with your kids on how to look up catechism passages. Maybe that's something you have a hard time with. I know I did for a while, so nothing to be ashamed of, but this is a great opportunity for you to really tap into those resources, to use them regularly, to do that as a family, and to have some really great discussions together. So just be assured you do not need to do every activity in the book. Do the activities that fit your family the best. I'd mentioned earlier the PC Quick Look. This is just kind of a screenshot of it. It is available for download on our website, or I will be handing them out after Masses this coming weekend, so the weekend of October 31st and November 1st. It's the suggested weekly schedule that connects PC at Church, PC at Home, and PC Family Sunday. There are also specific suggestions for your family, whether you have a family that has older children in it, maybe you're a family of younger children, perhaps you're a family like mine that has a nice mix of older and younger children. So we do have specific suggestions for your family structure to help guide you in accessing this information. It does mention a storybook project in the curriculum. And the idea is that you have a scrapbook and you create a cover for it and you add all these faith pieces. And I think that's beautiful. And if your family is so driven to do something that's a little more on the artsy side, then that's beautiful. But to be honest, that's not me. That's not my family. Sometimes I just don't have the headspace or the time to pull out all the arts and crafts stuff and dive deep into that. I wish I did. But that is precisely why I've been doing the journaling in my book. Then it's all in one place. I only have one thing to reference. The activity book is certainly a great place, and you can encourage your kids to doodle within the margins. And then we have our journal, our growth mindset journal, as well as the portfolios that'll be sufficient as well. So if you would like to do some sort of scrapbook or an additional family notebook or binder, that is fine, but please don't feel like that's the expectation, because that's not a piece that we'll be necessarily focusing on. I just kind of want to end with a little bit more reflection on why we're doing what we're doing. So if you think back to the video of Ken Yazinski, he really talked about raising world changers. I think a lot of times we forget that our baptismal promise, our baptismal vow that we made was to raise our children in the faith and to to show them the light of Christ. And we're in this time right now. We're in this world where there's all this unrest. And sometimes, it's easy to fall into hopelessness. What can we do? Can we even do anything? Is it even worth, doing anything? How can I raise my children in a world where there is so much unrest in the news and the social media and, even on the street corners of Coeur d'Alene now, which seems unreal. And I love what Father said. The answer to all these problems is our faith, is the church that Jesus left us. He left the church to help guide and to help form us. So raising our children in the faith, and what that takes now is something drastically different. So I realize that Purposefully Catholic is so drastically different than anything we've done in the past. We've scrapped this classroom model. Once a week, you drop your kids off at class, and then you pick them up, and then you move on with your life. And what we're doing now is drastically different. We're asking parents to become more involved in their faith so that they can share that faith with their children. Well, in the world that we're living in order to affect change, to raise our children in this culture, it takes something drastic. We have to be drastically different. I love Dr. Ray Guarendi. He's a Catholic child and family psychologist. He says if you want to have a 1 in 100 kid, you have to be a 1 in 100 parent. So what we're doing at St. Pius with Purposefully Catholic is so drastically different because what we have been doing is not working. So I just really, implore you to really take this seriously, to tune in on PC at home nights and PC at church nights, and know that you're not alone. We're here to help you. I don't have all the answers. I'm kind of in the middle of the mess with you, but together I think we can really instill the faith in our children by one baby step at a time. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by all this, by the idea of teaching the faith in the home, just do one thing this month, whether it's starting off every meal with a prayer or implementing a bedtime prayer, doing one activity in your activity book, and then next month you can add something else. And the month after that, you can add something else. Throughout the year, especially during big liturgical feasts, we will be giving suggestions and support material. So don't feel like you need to recreate the wheel. For instance, Advent's coming up. We will be providing a lot of resources, ideas, opportunities for parents, for families to engage in Advent in the home without having to, spend hours and hours planning that for your children. So again, I realize that what we're doing is very different, maybe a little bit scary because it's new, but it is so exciting. Such an honor to be able to work with parents, walk alongside families to really change the world. I love what Mother Teresa says. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And that's so true. So, Familiaris consortio, we're going to touch back on that. The ministry of evangelization carried out by Christian parents is original and irreplaceable. It assumes the characteristics typical of family life itself, which should be interwoven with love, simplicity, practicality, and daily witness. So we should have, we were handing out materials, like I said, last weekend. I'll be handing out portfolios, journals, family of faith curriculum again after masses this coming weekend, the weekend of October 31st and November 1st. Come ask me questions, bounce ideas off me. You can always email me also. My email is jkenner@stpiuscda.org. You can also find that on the website. So let me know if you have questions and how we can support you. Each family is going to look a little bit different. So Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to walk alongside of you and your family. And from St. Pius, we wish you God's blessings.